There's a lot to be said about spiritual life, but a lot of times we kind of get our eyes off of the main deal. We begin to think that spiritual life has to do with meditation and with prayer and with studying your scriptures and with behaving yourself and all of these things. And we forget that the real point of spiritual life is love, is to manifest love, to reduce our ego, which is our selfishness, to the extent that we can allow our nature of love to express freely through us. Vivekananda writes a couple of paragraphs here that I think are beautiful for really laying out the point of spiritual life, of religion. He says, through faithful practice, layer after layer of the mind opens before us, and each reveals new facts to us. We see, as it were, new worlds created before us, new powers put into our hands. But we must not stop by the way or allow ourselves to be dazzled by these beads of glass when the mine of diamonds lies before us. So through this faithful practice, being steady and regular on it and devoting our heart to it, our mind opens. We escape some of the whirlpools of mind, some of the ingrained, habitual, repetitive cycles of thought that are the cause of a lot of our confusion and a lot of our suffering in life. And we get past that. And so when the mind begins to open and we begin to experience a new way of being, we begin to experience a new world, lots of things open up to us that are new, that have not been encountered before, because each of our states of mind that happen when we get caught in those whirlpools is like being in the bottom of a bowl. You can't see over the edge. You feel like you know everything, you can see everything, but in fact, you're in this very small container. So he's saying when the mind begins to open, when you begin to grow in your spiritual life, don't stop. Don't think, oh, this is the thing. I feel joy inside. I feel happiness. I feel bliss. I feel oneness with God. I feel love. All that's fine. Don't focus on it. Don't look at the trinkets along the way. Keep your mind always in that unchanging shrine of your heart and go forward before that. Whatever you dream and think of, you create. If it is hell, you die and see hell. If it's evil and Satan, you're going to get a Satan. If it's ghosts, you'll get ghosts. But whatever you think, that you become. If you have to think good thoughts. Think great thoughts. Go through, keep your mind positive. Always be solution-oriented. Always be hopeful. You have to train your mind. And what are we training it to be like? Read 1 Corinthians 13, 1 through 8. That's what we're trying to allow the mind to become. That is our true nature. It's the story of love. It's the definition of love. It's patient. It's kind. Keeps no records of wrongs. Does not delight in evil, but delights in truth. This is what we're hoping to reduce the ego enough that we might shine that image of the beloved, of the divine within us. He says we must become thinkers. Every birth is painful. We must get out of materialism. My mother would not let us get out of her clutches. Nevertheless, we must try. This struggle is all the worship there is. So your struggle in spiritual life, your struggle to love, to care, to not be selfish, to get out of your own self, you're out of your own mind, to look beyond your own troubles and interests. This is real spiritual life. And it's worship. That's how you worship God, by struggling to improve and to grow ever more closer to that source of divine love. He says, we must get out of materialism. The struggle is all the worship there is. All the rest is a mere shadow. You are the personal God. Just now I am worshiping you. This is the greatest prayer. Worship the whole world in that sense, by serving it. This standing on a high platform, I know, does not appear like worship, but if it is service, it is worship. So the real way to worship God, it has nothing to do with buildings. It has nothing to do with temples. It has to do with seeing the beloved everywhere in everything, and loving, serving the divine in everything. So when you help that person sitting on the side of the road that has nothing, you're not helping that person. And that's an important point, because if you think you're helping that person, there's egoism involved. It puts you in a higher position and that person in a lesser position. And if you continue to serve them with that dynamic, it's going to build resentment, and you're not going to be able to help that person. You can only help yourself in this world. And by worshiping that person, worshiping God in that person, not in idolatry, looking through that person at God, seeing that divine spark, that image of God within that person, and serve that person as worship, keeping your mind on that love, on that divinity. This is the way to worship, not all of the other things. Those things they all have their place, but the real thing is to see your beloved in the eyes of everything in this world, and to offer service as worship in that wonderful, giving hearted kind of way. This standing on a platform, I know, does not appear like worship, but it is, if it is service, it is worship. Worship everything as God. Every form is his temple, right? The Rig Veda, that wonderful verse, one of the oldest scriptures we have, and it's mirrored in many of the world's traditions, that this body is the temple, and within the body dwells God, and that God is your real self, your true self. And to move the ego out of the way is to let that self manifest. So worship everything as God. Every form is his temple. All else is delusion. Always look within, never without. If the devotee is sincere, then God, who is the inner guide of all, will certainly reveal to the devotee his true nature. Know that to be true, and be free. See God everywhere. Worship everything as the beloved. See every form as his temple. Know that you are that temple, and that life energy within you, that which is you before body, before mind, is the very essence of love, the very essence of wisdom and being. It is God.